right, history buffs, UPSC aspirants, anyone interested in modern Indian history, welcome back.
Back for part 2 of our deep dive.
Exactly. We're diving into those key events that shaped India's journey to independence.
And today, we're tackling a really fascinating event.
A story that's often overlooked.
The Komagata Maru incident of 1914.
Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, isn't that like a Canadian immigration thing?
Well, it is, but it's so much more than that. It's a story that goes way beyond just immigration.
It's a story of resilience, resistance, and the far-reaching consequences of discrimination.
All set against the backdrop of, a world on the brink of war.
It really captures those complexities of the Indian experience in the early 20th century.
Both within India and for those seeking opportunities abroad.
Exactly.
So picture this. You're on a ship, for months.
Hoping for a better life.
Seeking a better life.
Wow.
Only to be denied entry.
At your destination.
And ultimately, face tragedy.
That's the harsh reality the passengers of the Komagata Maru faced. But to really grasp this event, we need to rewind a bit, go back to the early 1900s.
A time of immense change.
Nationalism was on the rise in India.
And many Indians were looking for opportunities overseas.
Especially in places like Canada.
But what awaited them were discriminatory laws.
Laws that specifically targeted Asians.
Exactly.
Right. Canada had this continuous journey regulation.
Making it nearly impossible for Indians to immigrate.
Basically, you had to travel directly from India to Canada on a single ship.
Which, let's be honest, was practically impossible for most people.
Yeah, a blatant attempt to keep Indians out.
Absolutely.
And this brings us to the Komagata Maru, a Japanese steamship.
Carrying 376 Punjabi passengers.
Led by the remarkable Ghadar Singh.
They set sail from Hong Kong to Vancouver.
Fueled by a glimmer of hope.
From a recent Supreme Court ruling in Canada.
It allowed a small group of Indians
who had managed a continuous journey to enter.
So this sparked a belief that maybe, just maybe, they could challenge this regulation.
It seemed possible.
But the voyage wasn't just about reaching Canada.
Right.
It was becoming a symbol of defiance.
Absolutely.
So, what role did the Ghadar Party play during that stopover in Japan?
The Ghadar Party was a revolutionary organization.
Advocating for complete Indian independence.
They saw the Komagata Maru as a powerful symbol.
I can see why.
During the ship's stopover in Japan, they connected with the passengers.
They did.
Distributed literature, gave fiery speeches.
Really?
Igniting a spirit of resistance against British rule.
Wow.
It was a powerful moment.
So the ship finally arrives in Vancouver, carrying all those hopes and dreams.
But I'm guessing it wasn't the warm welcome they were hoping for.
I think we all know where this is going.
Sadly, you're right.
What happened?
Despite meeting the legal requirements,
For entry.
the passengers were met with hostility.
I bet.
They were denied entry.
Awful.
It was a blatant display of discrimination.
It really exposed the hypocrisy of those British claims to justice and equality. So this is where the Shore Committee comes in, right?
Yes. Individuals like Hussain Rahim and Sohan Lal Pathak,
They were in Vancouver.
they rallied to support the passengers.
Good for them.
They formed the Shore Committee,
Okay.
organized protests,
And challenged those Canadian government policies.
they even garnered support from activists in the United States.
Wow. So early international solidarity.
It was really inspiring.
Sadly, it wasn't enough, though, was it?
Unfortunately not.
The Komagata Maru was forced to leave Canadian waters.
And as if things weren't bad enough already,
World War I breaks out.
adding another layer of complexity.
To an already tense situation.
The British government, now at war,
Right?
issued orders that restricted the Komagata Maru.
From disembarking anywhere but Calcutta.
This added immense hardship to the passengers.
Imagine after months at sea, being told you can't go home.
It was a cruel twist of fate.
And to make matters worse, they were treated like criminals upon return.
It's heartbreaking.
So what happened when they finally reached Budge?
Near Calcutta,
Yeah.
on September 27th, 1914.
This is where it gets really tragic.
The passengers, exhausted and frustrated,
After months at sea,
they resisted the British Indian police.
who were trying to arrest their leaders.
This resulted in a violent clash, a riot.
At Budge,
At least 19 passengers were killed.
it's a stark reminder of the brutality of colonial rule.
And the lengths the British were willing to go to maintain control,
The Budge incident sent shockwaves throughout India.
especially in Punjab, where most of the passengers were from.
It became a rallying point for those who saw it as a blatant act of oppression.
And that's where the Ghadar Party steps onto center stage.
Right. They recognized the power of this event.
They saw it as a symbol of British injustice.
And they weren't just talking.
No, they were planning for action.
We'll dive into that in our next segment.
But first, I'm curious about something you mentioned earlier.
What's that?
Those political dacoities.
Ah, yes.
As a form of protest after the Komagata Maru.
Could you elaborate on that a bit?
It's not a term we hear every day.
Definitely not.
So, political dacoities were acts of robbery or banditry.
But with a political motive.
Exactly. They targeted institutions that represented British power and wealth.
So it wasn't just about taking money.
It was a symbolic act of defiance.
Striking back at the colonial system.
Disrupting its operations, demonstrating that growing anger and frustration.
Among the Indian population.
Absolutely.
That's fascinating. It shows the diverse forms of resistance emerging at the time.
The Komagata Maru incident was a catalyst for many different forms of protest.
From peaceful demonstrations to more radical actions.
Like those political dacoities.
It reflects a growing awareness of the injustices of British rule.
And a determination to fight for change.
This has really set the stage for a deeper understanding of the Komagata Maru.
And its significance in the broader context of the Indian independence movement.
And in our next segment, we'll delve further into how this event shaped that movement.
And how its ripples were felt across the globe. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Komagata Maru incident.
So, in the last segment, we were talking about the Ghadar Party.
Yeah.
And their plans for action.
Right. They weren't content with just protests and speeches.
They wanted a revolution.
They wanted complete independence from British rule.
And the Komagata Maru incident just fueled that fire.
Absolutely. It became a powerful symbol of British injustice.
So what was their plan?
Their plan was audacious.
Audacious how?
They aimed to spark a mutiny within the British Indian Army.
Whoa, hold on. A mutiny.
They wanted to capitalize on the chaos of World War I.
So, like, use the war to their advantage.
Exactly. Trigger a domino effect.
Okay, I'm listening.
Their target date was February 21st, 1915.
1915, all right.
They planned to strike at key garrisons.
Like where?
Firozpur, Lahore, Rawalpindi.
Major military centers?
The idea was if they could get a few key units to rebel...
Others would follow.
Precisely.
It sounds like a huge gamble.
It was a high-stakes plan.
And we know it didn't work out, right?
Unfortunately, no.
India didn't gain independence for decades after this.
True.
So what went wrong?
Betrayal.
Betrayal. From who?
Informants within their ranks.
Wow, that's tough.
They tipped off the British authorities.
Who then crushed the rebellion.
Before it could even begin.
That's heartbreaking, to have your own people turn against you.
It was a major setback for the Ghadar Party.
And for the movement as a whole.
The British, already on edge because of the war,
Right.
They responded with brutal force.
What did they do?
They enacted the Defense of India Act.
What was that?
It gave them sweeping powers
Like what?
to detain people without trial
Seriously.
and impose harsh sentences.
So basically silence any opposition.
Essentially, yes.
Wow, that's heavy-handed.
It was a tool to suppress dissent, control the narrative.
They were clearly feeling the pressure.
The war had a profound impact on the situation in India.
It makes sense they were vulnerable.
Exactly.
What happened to the Ghadar Party leaders?
Many went into hiding.
To avoid arrest.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Others were arrested, faced lengthy prison sentences.
So the movement was effectively dismantled.
At least in its organized form.
But the spirit of resistance, that doesn't just disappear, does it?
No.
The desire for freedom
It continues to grow.
and the Komagata Maru incident remained a symbol of that struggle.
Absolutely. A potent symbol of British injustice.
We've been talking about the impact within India.
Right.
But this incident also had international implications, didn't it?
Yes,
It
definitely.
became a focal point for the Indian diaspora.
Especially in places like Canada.
They saw it as a blatant example of racial discrimination.
And a violation of basic human rights.
So they weren't just passive observers.
No, they were actively involved in the fight for India's freedom.
Even from afar.
Exactly.
That's amazing. A truly global movement.
The diaspora played a vital role.
How so?
They provided financial support, raised awareness internationally
They really put pressure on their governments.
to address the injustices of British rule.
That's critical. It shows the interconnectedness of these movements.
The Komagata Maru incident highlighted the transnational nature of the struggle.
And the growing solidarity between Indians at home and abroad.
Absolutely.
So how did the British government respond to this international pressure?
Their response was a mix of appeasement and suppression.
Meaning,
They realized they couldn't ignore the outcry completely.
but they still wanted to maintain control.
Exactly, a tricky balancing act.
What did they do?
They introduced some reforms
Likewise.
aimed at increasing Indian representation in legislative councils.
And expanding certain political rights.
But these reforms were often seen as inadequate.
Too little, too late.
Many felt that way.
It seems like the Komagata Maru incident, while not causing an immediate revolution,
Right.
it really pushed the independence movement in a new direction.
It was a turning point
It exposed the limitations of working within the system.
and pushed more people towards a more radical stance.
Okay, before we move on, I want to talk about another crucial aspect of this incident.
What's that?
Its significance in the context of human rights.
That's a vital point.
The Komagata Maru incident wasn't just about immigration or even Indian independence.
Right.
It was about the fight for human rights and equality.
Exactly.
Help me connect the dots here.
Okay.
How does this event resonate with contemporary issues of human rights and discrimination?
Well, the continuous journey regulation was clearly discriminatory.
It was designed to exclude people based on their origin,
Exactly. And the denial of entry to the passengers.
despite having a legal right to land.
It exposed the hypocrisy of British claims to justice and fairness.
And sadly, these themes are still relevant today.
They are.
We see discriminatory immigration policies, travel bans.
Profiling based on religion or ethnicity.
It's happening all over the world.
It's a reminder that the fight for justice and equality is ongoing.
It transcends borders and time.
The Komagata Maru passengers' spirit of resistance.
It resonates with contemporary movements for social justice.
Their story reminds us that even in the face of adversity,
The pursuit of equality and dignity must persist.
absolutely,
It's a powerful message of hope and resilience.
it is.
Speaking of resilience,
Yeah,
I'm curious about the families of those passengers who lost their lives at Budge Budge.
a poignant question.
What happened to them?
Many face financial hardship, social stigma,
And the trauma of losing loved ones.
under such unjust circumstances.
Their stories are a crucial part of understanding the human cost of colonialism.
You're right, history isn't just about dates and events,
It's about the lives of real people.
and the ripple effects of these events on generations.
The Komagata Maru incident is a testament to the resilience of the human spirit.
But it's also a reminder of the enduring legacy of injustice.
It compels us to reflect on the past, learn from its mistakes.
And continue the fight for a more just and equitable future.
We've covered a lot of ground today,
We have.
from the Ghadar Party's planned revolt to the broader human rights implications.
The Komagata Maru incident had a profound impact.
But there's still more to uncover.
Yes, in our final segment, we'll explore how this event continued to shape the independence movement.
As India moved towards those final decades of British rule.
We'll see how the lessons of the Komagata Maru continue to resonate.
I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. Welcome back to our deep dive. We're exploring how the Komagata Maru incident continued to shape the Indian independence movement.
Right, because as we were discussing in the last segment, the movement wasn't like a monolith.
Absolutely not. There were many different factions, each with their own approaches.
You had groups advocating for dominion status,
Yeah?
staying within the British Commonwealth.
Like the moderates within the Indian National Congress.
They believed in working within the system, gradual reform.
Exactly.
And then you had those who demanded complete independence, a clean break from the British.
Like the Ghadar Party.
They believed that true freedom could only be achieved through direct confrontation.
And the Komagata Maru incident, with its stark display of injustice, really amplified this divide within the movement.
It's like it was a turning point for many.
It shattered any remaining hope that the British would willingly grant meaningful concessions.
Or treat Indians as equals.
It made the limitations of working within the system very, very clear.
It strengthened the arguments of those who believed that freedom had to be won, not given.
That separation from the British Empire was the only path to true freedom.
It's like the incident was a wake-up call.
A stark reminder that freedom wouldn't be handed over, it had to be fought for.
And this shift towards a more assertive, confrontational approach, it became really evident in the years that followed.
You see the rise of figures like Mahatma Gandhi with his philosophy of nonviolent resistance,
Satyagraha.
and the growing popularity of the Indian National Congress advocating for complete self-rule.
It reflected this evolving landscape.
Exactly.
Gandhi's approach was revolutionary in its own way.
Absolutely.
Nonviolent resistance, it was such a powerful alternative to armed struggle.
It captured the imagination of millions.
It seems like the Komagata Maru incident, while not leading to an immediate revolution, it really influenced the direction of the movement.
It served as a catalyst, accelerating the shift towards a more assertive and strategic approach.
And remember that international dimension we discussed earlier.
Of course.
That was amplified too.
The Komagata Maru incident really highlighted the role of the Indian diaspora in the fight for freedom.
Their support, their activism on the world stage, it kept growing,
Putting pressure on the British government.
raising global awareness.
It's incredible how this one event had such ripple effects.
It shaped the course of history
It's a testament to the power of a single event,
to expose injustice
to ignite resistance.
and to inspire lasting change.
Absolutely.
We've been on quite a journey exploring the Komagata Maru incident and its impact on India's path to independence. It's a story of resilience, of resistance, and the unwavering pursuit of freedom.
In the face of tremendous challenges.
To our listeners, especially our UPSC aspirants, our history enthusiasts, we hope this deep dive has given you a deeper understanding of this pivotal chapter in India's past.
And its relevance to the present.
History's not just about dates and events. It's about understanding the forces that shape our world.
And learning from those who came before us.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that spirit of curiosity alive.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this deep dive with anyone who might find it insightful.
Until next time, keep learning.